Thanks for tuning in. Today I wanted to share my story of how I was able to get my Birkin fresh from the boutique. And I know there are a lot of different videos out there on how people have scored their Birkin, Kelly, Constance, whatever it is, from the boutique. So I just want to emphasize that this is my personal experience. This was the approach that I decided to take to be able to add this piece to my collection. There are a lot of different ways that you can do it, and I'm sure if you asked everybody who got one, everyone's story would be a little different, but I wanted to share my approach just in case it was helpful for any of you who were hoping to be able to add one of these coveted Hermes bags to your collection. All in all, it took me about a year plus for me to get the Birkin. And it wasn't necessarily a constant year of, going back to the store and all of that. It took a year because of how long it actually took me to get back to the specific location. So my number one tip, if you can call it that, would really be to cultivate a relationship, a meaningful relationship with your SA. And the piece that I want to emphasize here is that your SA doesn't have to be an SA at your local boutique. So for example, I live in New York City. There are a number of Hermes boutiques in New York City. I know there are at least two, one on Madison Ave and one in Meatpacking. The Meatpacking store is relatively new. I personally have not had the best experiences in either of those two locations. It's kind of like, the perpetual horror story of really snobby SAs. Well, yeah, that's what happens in both of those stores. I haven't really had any success finding someone that I felt like I jived with, and I really appreciated their help, and they were really there to help me find the things that I was looking for. I just never got that vibe from anybody who was working at either of those two boutiques. And this is all my personal opinion, but I feel like the Madison Avenue boutique is such a well-established boutique with its set of clientele, clientele that goes back years and years and years. So even though it is, I believe, the number one in terms of revenue generating within all of the Hermes stores, they already know who they would be offering up their coveted bags to because they have such an established clientele base. So when I go there, if I need to, get a gift or something, then I'll go there. I will receive decent service. People will still help me there, but I haven't really tried to break into that list of clientele in order to try to get a Birkin or a Kelly or a Constance. I just kind of wrote that shop off in terms of my ability to be able to break into that space. The Meatpacking boutique I went to recently, it opened up in May of 2019, I want to say. So it's a relatively new boutique. And I recently stopped by, I want to say in September. That was the first time I stopped by. It was actually after I purchased my Birkin. So I walked in because I wanted to buy some twillies, and yet nobody was really bothered to help me. So I just don't get the right energy off of either of the boutiques that are in New York City, which is why my boutique, what I consider the place that I really want to go to buy my Hermes pieces, is actually the Hermes in Waikiki. If you have a local boutique and you find that it's difficult for you to establish a relationship there for whatever reason, I think it's not ridiculous to consider developing a relationship with someone at a different boutique. And mine happens to be on an island that is not even remotely close to New York, and yet that was where I found the relationship, so that was where I held on to it. I met my SA when I was in Hawaii last year in 2018. I went in the summer for a girlfriend trip, and that was the first time I actually met her. This is also my personal opinion, but I feel like the Waikiki store has SAs who are a lot more amicable and willing to help you out, even if you're only buying one twilly. They're much more open to you coming in and browsing and just taking a look. They don't seem to consider any of that to be really a waste of their time, or even if they might consider it on the inside, they don't show it on the outside. So I always have a really pleasant experience when I'm in the Waikiki store, which is why last year I had a blast. I really appreciated the SA who was helping me out. She seemed to understand my shopping style, and I could tell that she appreciated she appreciated my appreciation for the brand and all the items that are in there, that she was like pulling things out from the back that I wasn't even really asking for. She's like, oh, well, like, would you be interested to see this or to see that? And we would talk through all of the items, and she'd be willing to look through what colors they have in case there was a color that I would be interested in. And that was the kind of energy that I was looking for in someone that I wanted to work with. She had taught me how to add a twilly to my picotine that I purchased last year. And so when I came back home and I was able to do that, I took a picture and I sent it over to her and I said, thank you. It looks really great with the twilly, and I really appreciate all of your help. And so we kind of kept that dialogue going. She sent me a little handwritten note saying thank you for stopping by, and to let her know if there was anything else that she could help me with. And I thought that was a really positive start to building out a relationship, and I always kept her in mind when I was thinking about some of my Hermes pieces. Earlier on this year, I decided that I wanted to make another trip over to Hawaii, and part of it was because it is a land of paradise, so why would I not want to give myself another reason to go? And another part of it was honestly so that I could stop by the Hermes Boutique and try to add a Birkin to my collection. If you watched my unboxing video, I mentioned that I was originally looking for a Birkin 25 in a neutral color. And so the beginning of this year, I reached out to my SA to let her know that I was planning a vacation later this year, and that there were a number of items that I was hoping to add to my collection. And so I shared a list, and that list spanned across shoes, accessories, jewelry, and home. It was like a wide spanning list of all sorts of things that I wanted to add to my collection. And so she reached out, she said, of course, that's totally fine. She'll keep an eye out for some of the things that I was looking for. Then a couple months before my trip, I reached back out to her to remind her again that my trip was coming up, and I revised my list of things that I was looking for. There were a couple things that fell off the list and a couple things that got added to the list. And so I shared that again and let her know the more specifics around like the date of when I was going to be in Hawaii and things like that. I did get more specific that I was really looking to add a Birkin 25 to my collection. And I prefaced it with, I understand that these are really coveted bags and it's really hard to get, but you know, I'm in Hawaii and this is just something that I really, really want to add to my collection. And I let her know that I was looking to add the neutral color, and I gave some examples. So I got specific with the colors, not so much because I really, really wanted it to be each color, but more to demonstrate that I am aware of the different colors and the ranges and things like that of the brand, and that I'm not just, you know, oh, I want a black bag and so I want to, you know what I mean? And it just shows a little bit more knowledge. It shows that you're a lot more appreciative and interested in the brand itself rather than just having this bag, right? And in my note, I did say, even though I am looking for a neutral bag, that I could be convinced to get a pop of color like yellow. I did mention that in my note. So she had all of that information, and when I came into the store to see her, I had some other items that I wanted to look through, so of course we were going to look through those. But almost as soon as I saw her, which I really, really appreciated, almost as soon as I saw her, she brought up the bag herself. I didn't really have to bring it up. She was like, so I know you're looking for you know, a Birkin, and she's like, there's a 30 that's coming in a yellow color that it's not here yet, it's actually on its way to get delivered to the store. Would you be interested in that piece? And I was like, oh, okay, so it's a Birkin 30. Are there any 25s? And she said, no, there are no 25s, and she's not sure when the next 25 is going to come in. This 30 is definitely an item that's coming in right now, and so she knew about it, and she said she could share that with me if I would be interested. So she actually showed me a garden party in the 30 size that was the same color, so that I could get a sense of what that color was and things like that. I asked her the hardware. She said it was silver. So I said, you know what, I'm definitely interested. So she said, okay, she'll let me know when the bag comes in, and I can come back to the store to check it out. So we knew about that piece, and we kind of reserved that for us to discuss when the bag arrives. And then we moved on to looking at all of the other pieces that I wanted to add. So like that blanket was one of them, and then I wanted to look at some shoes and some small other goods and things like that. So we took a pretty lengthy round through the store and picked out all of the items that I was looking for. I purchased the initial items that I wanted to grab, and then I went about for the rest of my day exploring on all of that. And then she sent me a text actually the same day letting me know that the bag had actually arrived. It arrived a little bit earlier than she thought. She said, you're more than welcome to come back. I'll wait for you in the store, even though it was past her shift, really. She said she can stay for a little bit for me to come over. So then I turned around and I went back to the store, and then that's when I was able to see this bag. The whole notion of getting taken to like this secret room is real. I was able to sit in that secret room, which was very exciting. Then she was able to bring out the bag. It had the wrapping on it, like the shrink wrap on it, which indicates that the bag had never been opened before, never been touched by anybody before. So it was brand spanking new, and that was all just a really exciting experience. That's the lengthy story time of literally the events that happened for me. So if I were to move on to sharing some tips, I already shared the tip of, you know, not being afraid to necessarily develop a relationship with an SA who is not in your immediate vicinity. It can still happen and it can still work. In my case, it was very successful that way. If you are planning a trip to Hawaii, I definitely recommend the Hawaii Waikiki store. When I went, my SA shared that the Waikiki store actually beat the LA store in terms of revenue, so it's now the second highest revenue generating store in the United States. The first one's New York, the second one's Hawaii, and I think the third one is LA or Beverly Hills. I think that's what she said, it was Beverly Hills. That can give you a sense of the amount of inventory that goes through the store. So sometimes I think you have a better chance of being able to score something you were looking for, mostly because of how much stock is already there. Also, Hawaii is a really big tourist state, and they thrive off of a lot of the tourism and the shopping that happens on their island. So the Waikiki store, I think, is pretty accustomed to having non-island folks really visit the store and try to add some pieces to their collection. A place like New York definitely has local established clientele who will come back every season and purchase new things for their collection, right? So they are the regulars that you would definitely want to service. So when new things come in and these kinds of bags come in, as a sales associate, you may prefer to offer those to your regular clientele. But Hawaii is such a heavy tourist state that I think they are a bit more accustomed to some of those, you know, transient people coming through, and they don't seem as hesitant to offer some of these items to people who, you know, may never come back again. I hope that makes sense. If you are able to, you know, make regular trips to that boutique where you develop a relationship with, I think that would be the most ideal. But Hermes also offers shipping services, so you would be able to purchase and have it shipped over to you. They would just need to apply the tax rate from the shipping address, so they would apply, you know, New York state tax if it was getting shipped to me, and then they'd also have to charge for the shipping. I don't know if the Birkin, Kelly, or Constance is an item that they would just easily ship to you if they don't really have a relationship, but I know if there are other items that you really wanted and they had available, they should be able to ship those to you. In my case, one of the objectives of my trip was to be able to visit the Hermes store, and if you are visiting from out of state, I would definitely recommend having enough days available so that you can cover the chance that something needs to be transferred from another store or something's on its way in. or even your essay having a couple days off during the week while you're there. So there are a lot of considerations, a lot of timing considerations that you want to make, that if you can, it would be helpful to have pretty ample time for you to manage all of those timing needs. I was actually there from Monday through Friday. I was there for 4 nights. I pretty much went to the Hermes store every single day. I went on Monday. I actually missed the time that my essay was normally there because of my flight, so I just went in and I took a browse in the evening. She was actually off on Tuesday, so I did not see her at the store, nor did I really go to the store. And then I went in on Wednesday to be able to see her, and then that's when she told me about the transfer that was coming in, that she thought it should definitely come in before Friday. So she thought it was actually going to come in on Thursday, maybe Friday, but my flight was 8 p.m. on a Friday, so I said I even have time on Friday if we need it. But it turned out it actually came Wednesday afternoon, so all of my stuff was sorted out by Wednesday afternoon. That gives you a picture though of how much time I had baked into everything, so that I could make sure I wouldn't, miss my chance necessarily. And I think that would be a great thing to consider as you're planning your trip. There was also one other piece that my essay shared about these bags. So when it comes to the Birkin or Kelly, she said she's able to hold a bag for a particular person, but when it comes to the Constance, she actually cannot hold any of those bags. So the Constance is really more of a luck of the draw. The day that you come in, if they have some available, they can give it to you. Because after we talked about the Birkin, I was wondering if they had any Constance, and that's what she explained. Like this bag, she knew it was coming, so she kind of held it off on the side to make sure I had a chance to check it out. She said she couldn't do that with the Constances, but that's something to consider. I'm not sure if that's how it is for all of the stores, but that was what she shared, and that might be specific to the Waikiki store. So at the end of the day, I know a lot of people mention this, that it's, about relationships. It's all really key to the relationships that you can have with your essay. And I believe that to be true if you're trying to go through a boutique. That's not the flagship store. I've seen several videos of the flagship store in Paris that has the whole, like, you go online and you try to get yourself a time slot to be able to come into the bag section, and then you ask and then you see if you can get one. That's a very different system that they have in Paris, and I think it's specific to that one store. Outside of that, I feel like it is heavily relationship based. Did I build up a purchase profile that was equivalent to one of the bags before I was offered one? No, I don't think so. I have purchased items from various stores here and there. Like, by various stores, I mean like the Madison Avenue store in Chicago, in Hawaii. Like, I picked up things here and there, and not consistently from one store. Even if I added all of that up, I don't think it amassed to, one Birkin before I was really offered one. So that rule didn't necessarily apply to me. Long story short, a lot of it is really about the relationship. And like I said, if you're struggling to find someone in your local area that you really jive with, then it could be helpful to branch out and look at some other boutiques that are nearby, maybe not so nearby, but you have some reason to be going there. All right, so I know this was a pretty lengthy video of me just sitting here talking. I feel like that's pretty boring, but I hope you found the information helpful. I hope you found my approach helpful. I know for some people it might seem really ridiculous that I feel like my Hermes store is in Hawaii when I live in New York. That's just what organically formed, and I really appreciate that whole store. So for me, it makes sense, and for me, it's something that I plan to continue to cultivate, not only with my particular essay, but just with the folks who are in that store. I really like the energy that's there, and the helpfulness that is always there. It did take a year for me to get the Birkin, but mostly because it took, I went back to Hawaii after about a year and some change since the first time I visited. So that's everything. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below or head on over to Instagram, and I'd be happy to help however I can. If you have any other ideas for things you'd like to see, reviews or follow-ups on any of the items that I shared in any of my hauls, let me know and I'll definitely prioritize to film those sooner rather than later. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. I really appreciate all of your feedback and support. If you haven't already, but you like this kind of content, I post videos every Sunday, so if you'd like to be one of the first to know, feel free to subscribe. So until next time,